Adrian Bellew, welcome to Australian Musician. Welcome to Melbourne again.
Oh, thank you. I'm so happy to be here again.
I'm just wondering though, should I be calling you Colonel now?
I am a colonel. Officially, I'm a Kentucky colonel. It means I get all the free chicken that I want, I guess, you know, at KFC.
That come out of the blue, or you knew
It
that
absolutely did. I had no idea that, you know, it's just something that's granted to someone if they feel they've done, you know, if they're not too much of a loser, I suppose. It's the highest civilian honor, though, you can get. You know, I was born in Kentucky, so you don't have to be born in Kentucky to receive the honor, but I think it's really wonderful.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I won an Oscar this year, too. So
what a year.
Oscar-winning Kentucky Colonel.
You can't ask for much more than that, can you?
Ooh, that's a lot of words, mouthful.
Adrian, you've worked with some wonderful artists, some legendary artists, Zappa, Bowie, David Byrne. I'm just wondering, do those guys have something in common? Is there a common thread?
Sure, I think they're all innovators. I think mostly the people that call on me to work together with them are people who, you know, come from their own artistic viewpoint, let's say. And many of them are people who I think have changed music in some ways. Not necessarily all of them, but they're always looking for someone to add something new into what they do, whether it's Trent Reznor or it's Paul Simon or whoever it may be, you know. And I seem to have the ability to fit into just about anything, with not only just as a guitarist, but I think musically speaking, I have prawns on my socks, by the way. Musically speaking, I feel like I can offer lots of ideas. Depends on what, you know, with most of the time when I go in, someone will just play me a track and say, is there something you'd like to add? And I say, there's 6 things I'd like to add, so let's get started.
Yeah. You toured with David Bowie. I'm just wondering, on tour or in rehearsal, what sort of notes or brief did he give to you and the band?
Well, you know, when I was in 1990, I was the music director, which meant that I arranged all the material for him, made sure it was the right arrangements, the right key for his voice. And because we had a small band, that was quite you know, it was quite a thing to do because we did his whole catalog. But I must admit, he stood on the side and applauded everything. He rarely said anything negative or gave me much instruction. I could always tell if David wasn't happy, he would say, I'm not quite sure about that, you know, and that's all he would say. And then that would be it. I'd say, okay, well then we'll go another way with it. But even recording with him or touring with him, he was always very generous to me. I think that's the reason he brought me in. He thought that I would be able to do what he was hoping for. He wanted a small band for that tour, and he wanted to be able to do a variety of music, some of which had saxophones or orchestras or whatever with a small band, though.
Yeah. Your first recording experience was the Lodger?
Lodger, yes.
I believe that was an interesting exercise.
It definitely was, because it was Brian Eno and Tony Visconti producing, and it was in Lake Geneva, Switzerland, where it's the same place that burnt down, and when Frank Zappa was playing there, oddly enough, and when they rebuilt it, not only did they write the song Smoke on the Water because it burnt down, but they made it a concrete bunker. So when you went in the studio, on the first level was the control room where David, Tony, and Eno would sit. And then you'd walk up these concrete stairs and you'd be in a room above them. They had a one-way camera. They could see you, but you couldn't see them. So the idea for the record was originally going to be called Planned Accidents. So it was Eno's idea, I believe, that, Adrian, we don't want you to hear any of the material. We just want you to go upstairs, put your headphones on. You'll hear the drums tick, 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 and you just start. Okay, what key? No. You don't get to know what key it is either. Oh, okay. Well, that's an interesting way to record. This is my first time I'd ever made a record in a studio. I knew it wasn't really done that way all the time, but I thought, well, this is curious. So, you know, I would go up and start, and I worked through 20 songs that way. And usually they would let me have like two tries, because by the second try I would kind of know, oh, the chorus is coming up, and and that's not what they wanted. They just strictly wanted my accidental responses. Then they would go back and take out the bits that they liked, meld them together in a composite. And if you listen to Red Sails or I'm a DJ, Boys Keep Swinging, any of those things, those are things that I didn't really play in one pass necessarily.
Right.
Just off the top of my head.
Yeah. I was lucky enough to be at the Celebrating Bowie gig at
wonderful.
the Wilton in LA this year.
Oh, not the one here in Sydney?
No.
Oh, great. That was a great one too.
Yeah, it was a wonderful show. What was the vibe like backstage?
It was very celebratory. I mean, we tried to make it so that as many of the players on stage were alumni from, different parts of his career. Yeah. So we all had a sort of a vested interest. We knew David to certain different degrees. Earl Slick had played with him in one era, I with another era or two, and so on. It was really a lot of fun. It was kind of like a circus atmosphere backstage. A lot of people running around, and and when you filtered in the guests and their children and things, it was sometimes a little nutty. What I would do every night, they would post the set list, and I would take a marker and mark underneath all the songs that I was supposed to go and play. So I would look up and go, oh wait, I got one more, and then I'm supposed to. Because sometimes the dressing rooms might be 5 minutes from the stage, and you had to get ready, get your guitar on, do all that stuff.
Yeah.
So. But I thought it really worked out so well, and it was a huge effort, with strings and choirs and guest stars and horn section and 3.5 hours worth of his music. I really thought it was great for us to be able to do that in his honor, because it really, more than anything, showed the breadth of his work and also showed you what a great songwriter he was. Mm-hmm. And you don't often think of that, but you think of him as a front man, a great singer, a great performer, but think of all the songs he wrote. There are some really great songs, and some of them are difficult. They have a lot of chord changes. Too many chord changes, David.
Fast forward a few months, you're here in Melbourne, Bird's Basement, with your power trio.
Mm-hmm.
What was it about Julie and Tobias that made you want to make music with them?
Well, I discovered Julie and her brother Eric when they were 19 and 18 years old at the School of Rock in Philadelphia. I went to do a seminar there, and the man who started the school, Paul Green, said, I'd like to bring in some of my best students that graduated last year. Would you play with them? We actually played City of Tiny Lights by Frank Zappa together. And then a week or so later, he said, I know you've been looking for a trio. Would you entertain the idea of maybe having these kids be your trio? It worried me for a moment, because I thought, well, it'll either make me look really old to have two teenagers on stage with me, or maybe it'll make me feel like a teenager again. Yeah. So I flew them down to my house for the weekend with a long list of songs. They knocked those things out like that, and then we went to dinner, and I loved them. And I said, I felt like a kid. I really did. They were pulling jokes on me. We were having so much fun. I thought, well, this is what I want to do. I want to be back to having fun at music. It's not about just, making money and any of those things. So I loved it. Eric stayed with us for 5 years, and then there was another band that he had always wanted to play with in Philadelphia, and he joined that band, and we had to find a different drummer to replace him for a while. It turned out we replaced him forever with Tobias, because Tobias is the perfect drummer for us. He really is a great drummer. Reminds me a lot of my other favorite drummer, Bill Bruford.
Okay.
Yeah.
So will you be recording with these guys?
I have done, yes. Yeah. We recorded a record called E. We recorded a live record called Overseas. Okay. We're going to record all of these shows, and I'm hoping that we can cull from that a live record of this particular set that we do now. Because I've worked on this for a long time to try to get it to be exactly what I want it to be. It's not perfectly right yet, but you'll see it's a lot of music and songs in one night, because we don't do the entire songs. We sort of cut them off in different places to surprise the audience. It has a good portion of the Crimson songs that I wrote in there as well. So, and a couple of Bowie songs, just because of what recently happened. So I feel like it's a very refined set. I'd like to get it down on record.
Yeah. Obviously, there's a connection with the music you're playing on stage and the app that you
Flux.
created, Flux.
Yeah, well, that's what we've done to the show a little bit. I've kind of fluxed the show.
Yeah.
I think it makes it really interesting for the audiences. It seems to be. We've played 53 shows this year already throughout Europe and the United States, and you know, people, I could see on their faces, they're surprised and they like the way it goes. You get a lot more music in one set, one night for that, for one thing. It kind of keeps it really fresh for us and for them.
Yeah.
And it works really well.
Yeah, you've always been into sound bites and snippets.
Yes.
Did you have a short attention span at school?
Yeah.
Or?
I probably did, but I also think that all of us have that now. I really do. I think whether we realize it or not, this is the age of where, because of television commercials and primarily the internet, of course, more than anything, we have, you know, we get things in very quick, short bursts, surprising changes from this to that to that. And I wondered for years and years, why isn't there a music that does that, you know? And I always had this in mind, this flux music, but there was never the technology to do it. I wanted to have music where every time you listen to it, it's like life itself. It gets interrupted by a phone call or something and you move on, and so it's never quite the same, even though there's some of it's the same material. So inside the Flux app, you have hundreds of songs and pieces of music. It took me, well, now 7 years of adding things to it.
Yeah.
And it's really opened a lot of artistic impetus for me. I'm 10 times more productive because every little thing that I hear or want to do, or if I write something and I feel, okay, it's only 45 seconds long, but that's all I want to say, I can use it. So for all those previous decades, I had those same ideas, but I had nowhere to put them back in the day when you had to wait till you had 12 songs that were all 4 minutes long. Yeah. And then you could put out a record.
Yeah. You're kind of the poster boy for Parker Fly guitars.
Yes.
How did you first come across those guitars?
I was in Japan, and I had seen an article or two about them, never had played one. One day I was in my room in Japan, and 3 small Japanese guys knocked on my door. I opened the door, they said, "We are Korg." We are Korg. I thought, oh great, they've finally come to take me away. You know, I thought, they're taking me away in a spaceship. But really they had wanted to give me a pedal to try out. And in order to try out the pedal, they gave me a Parker Fly to try it out with. So, and let me have it for about a week while I was there. Well, when they came to see what I thought of the pedal, I said, the pedal's good, it's fine, it's a good pedal. I love the guitar. And they gave me the guitar.
I saw a rig rundown video a little while back, I think a few years ago, and I was interested because you were using a Roland VG99, which was...
That has been replaced, by the way, now.
I was going to say,
I'm always...
old technology. And
well, it's not because the technology, is because the size of it. Everything, we're traveling so much now internationally. I've done so much touring. And I'm trying to get my rig to be the smallest it can be. If you look on the stage, that all fits in one box that weighs 50-something pounds, everything. All my pedals, a small rack. And now I can kind of just wheel it up to the gate and say, here it is, and pay an extra, $100 and it's on the plane. So that's been my goal for a long time, is to get down to, I don't have amps on stage or anything like that anymore. I use in-ears. I get some feed from my monitors that they provide for me everywhere. But the idea has been to do what I do, make all those sounds and do all those crazy things with the smallest amount of gear possible. So even since that rig, it's gotten smaller now. You'll see. Now I also use a computer. That's helpful. I can do my loops that way. I can control my in-ear levels. I can mix things. I can... and there's several things I can do with it. I'm introducing some guitar sounds that way, but most of the guitar sounds are still coming from something called the fractal axe effects. Okay. That's the one rack thing in there. And also now I replaced the VG99 with the newer one that's called GP10, which is really very, very similar sounds. It's just in a smaller smaller package.
What are you most proud of?
Oh, let's see. I kind of like my tan that I have right now. I think it's pretty good.
I was going to
for
mention
this kind of time of the year. You know, I mean, I was only home for 3 days, and I was amazed I got this much tan in 3 days. I hope that in the end that Flux is the thing that I'm remembered for, because I feel like it's the one thing that I can say I did that no one else did. Maybe there's more things, maybe, I hope, but that's the one music form that I feel like. But it's a long road to get people to like something new, or to even think, oh, I should download an app. That's such a new thing for people. So it may take a while. I'm happy with everything I've been able to do. I mean, I've had so many great experiences and been very, very fortunate. I love all the people I've worked with. There's so much music. Sometimes I have a lot of pinch marks on me. So I pinch myself a lot, you know. Winning an Oscar this year was a total surprise to me. Working with Pixar, in fact, was a real highlight. I'm a huge fan of all animation stuff, starting with Bugs Bunny, my hero, Bugs Bunny. And, you know, to end up being part of that was special. So, I don't know, I just keep going. I just started a band with Stewart, Copeland, and Mark King that just was announced today.
Okay.
So I'm not stopping. I've got.
Does that have a name?
It does. It's called Gizmodrome.
Okay.
Gizmodrome, and we've already recorded a very good record. I'm really, really happy with. It reminds me of, for me personally, sort of the work I did with Talking Heads. Not that it sounds like that, but it has that kind of spirit to it. It's very groovy, dance-oriented, fun, lots of wild guitar stuff in there. It's mostly almost all Stewart Copeland songs that we've been doing. And I originally went to Italy, to Milan, just to record 4 songs on the record. It was not supposed to be a band. But we loved it so much, we just kept going and going. We made a whole record, and then we said, well, since we love this so much, why don't we just be a band? So we'll see how far it goes, but you know, so now I have the power trio, as obviously is always there for me as my solo vehicle, and maybe I'm in a new band where I'm mostly the guitar player again. I don't know. We'll see.
ADRIAN Bellew, thanks for your time.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.